What is going on, everybody? So, I've been able to go fish. We're fishing the second tournament of the fall season tomorrow. It is currently around 9:30. Night before, here on Lake Hartwell in South Carolina. And since we are fishing Lake Hartwell, which is a herring lake, I figured, since I have learned a lot about herring lakes in the past year or so, and I've slowly started to figure them out, I'm going to share my tips and tricks that I would have for you on fishing herring lakes, how to fish herring baits, the best baits to use, all that jazz. While I am rigging up for tomorrow, because I have rigged nothing. We didn't go practice or anything, so we're going in blind. But we have a game plan. So, we are going to figure it out here. Okay. So, what exactly is blueback herring? So, blueback herring are a bait fish that came from the ocean, that can live in freshwater. They would migrate up river systems, and then they slowly kept getting introduced into lakes. And when they start getting introduced into lakes, and I think it was late in the 90s or 80s or something like that, they were taking over the shad, threadfin shad and stuff, and they completely rewire fish. They make them act differently than they normally would. So when you may be super good at fishing a TVA lake or lakes in Texas or up north, and then you come here to a blueback herring lake in the Carolinas, you might get skunked. You'd be stumped on what to do. And I've seen that a couple times with pros and people who fish mainly down south or up north, or Florida or wherever, where there's no blueback herring, and then they come here and they struggle. So it's completely different. For me, I'm really good at fishing these lakes, and then I go anywhere else and I'm not great. So we're working on that though. But what exactly is a blueback herring? So, or how big are they? How do they act? So blueback herring are on average size are 4 to 6 inches. So anywhere from that big, they could get up to that big, and they may be smaller, like that big, like a threadfin shad size. And the thing that's different about herring than other like shad and stuff like that, alewife are also very similar to herring, is the way they swim and the way they look. So herring are very shiny, they're very flashy, and they don't have much of a swimming action. They just dart around super fast. Like, I'm talking crazy fast. Bass have to swim as fast as possible to be able to get those fish to eat whenever they're chasing them around. So in herring lakes, it is very common to see fish bust absolutely everywhere all the time, because that is one of their only ways to be able to catch catch herring is using the top of the water as a wall to push those herring up against so they can trap them. So when you see fish busting like crazy, that's what that means. Herring, like right now, it's mid-September, so the herring spawn just happened. So there'll be schools of herring that'll be regular size, and there'll be schools of herring that'll be smaller, like that big, maybe a little bigger. So we'll have to change up a little bit, downsize on some baits on what to use. But herring are mainly main lake fish, and they don't sit on the bank. They are mainly offshore, so they will be off long points and creek channels and ditches and main creek arms and stuff like that. So they don't live close to stuff. So whenever you go chasing around herring and you can find places, you'll usually see fish schooling way out, like 100 yards, 200 yards off the bank. Especially if there's long points or a shoal that's in 20 foot of water and people planted a brush pile there, and bass will sit on that, and when herring come over those fish will come up and push that bait to the top of the surface. Most of the herring lakes are here in North Carolina and South Carolina, so the Savannah River Chain, Jocassee, Kiwi, Hartwell, Clarksville, Russell, Lanier, Murray, Norman I know has some, Chattooga, Hiwassee, Glenville, Lanier, I don't know if I said Lanier already. A lot of places like that have herring and are the main bait fish forage in those lakes, which again completely rewires the fish fish are used to moving super active, moving to super fast stuff. So you have to work your baits super fast unless you're fishing a finesse presentation. So it's pretty simple. It's fun as heck. It is so much fun just to fish bait super fast, like cranking, you know, swimming a fluke super fast on the top of the water and watching fish come up, or walking a dog choo 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 super fast and watching fish come up and eat that thing when you're working those baits super fast. It's awesome. It's fun, and I enjoy doing it. It's definitely my favorite way to catch fish, because those fish will eat topwater 365 days a year. There will not be a day where you won't find herring fish hitting topwater. Like spotted bass, they will eat topwater when the water temperature is 40 degrees. They do not care. So, baits. I think the most important thing is the bait, because your bait, you cannot work it slow at all. Where's these scissors? Guess I'm cutting with my teeth. Oh, they're right there. You can't work your bait slow. You have to work your baits fast. And that's something that's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make on herring lakes, is they're working their bait way too slow. Way too slow. And when fish get a good look at those baits, and they're used to eating those herring so much, and they get a good look, and they see it's different, unless you're super pressured and it's something like way different, they won't eat it. Eventually those fish will get conditioned enough to know, hey, that's a white zoom super fluke, I'm not going to eat that. But there's a lot of times where they won't. So let's break down some baits. There's 4 or 5 good ones. I'm just going to go along. I don't have anything planned. I'm just sitting here rigging up my rods for tomorrow. But there's 4 or 5 good ones, and my favorite one, which is what I'm about to rig up on this rod, is a Fluke. Zoom Super Fluke soft jerk bait, whatever you call it. And I'm experimenting with some different ways to use soft jerk baits and stuff. Usually I'm throwing them weightless, but the way you have to work them is different than you would on most lakes. Most lakes you're working it, you know, like a jerk bait, jerking, and of course you can catch fish on doing that on herring lakes. But if you see me when I'm fishing Chatoog, these past Chatoog tournament videos and stuff, I am ripping my rod quickly, mimicking how those herring dart through the water, ripping, rip, and I'm ripping that bait across the top of the water, and those fish come up and eat it because it looks like a herring when they're darting away from fish, and it's at the top of the water, so those fish can push that thing up and blow up on it, and it's super fun. So yes, you can catch fish just jerking it like a normal jerk bait, but my favorite thing is to rip my rod, you know, until you either see that fish blow up, or you feel the weight on the end of your rod when you're ripping it, and then whenever you do that, as soon as you feel that weight, boom, set your hook. Either lean into them pretty hard, or go back and then set your hook. And topwater bites are the same thing as regular. Whenever those fish hit topwater, wait a second and then set your hook. Don't set your hook immediately. You will rip that hook out of their mouth. I'll play some clips on the screen of me at Chatoog just ripping that bait on the surface and watching those fish come up and blow up on it and stuff like that, and I'm catching those fish. And I've caught 25, 30 fish doing that in one day. So it is a great way. It's my favorite way, because a fluke mimics a herring so well. There's 2 different kinds of flukes or soft jerk baits that I like to use. I'm gonna get those out right now. So, and there's 3 different colors that I love using. Hooks. So I would not use this style of hook unless you're throwing weighted. So this is the VMC drop dead hook. It's got a lead weight on there to help that. I'm using it mainly to cast a little bit further, because I was having trouble casting pretty far with this setup, because it's a weightless fluke. It's really light. So we're going to do a little weight. I'm going to play around with it. This is a 3/32 ounce. This is the 1/8 ounce. So we're going to play around with it a little bit, see what works the best, see if it affects the action much at all. Usually I'm throwing it weightless on a offset worm hook. I'm not an EWG, so let me get one out and show you real quick. Usually I would probably go with a thinner wire one, but something like that is what I'm usually throwing my fluke on. I'm just Texas rigging it. Let me get these colors out. So 2 of them are Zoom. One of them's Strike King, which Strike King is definitely my favorite, or my second favorite by far. The best all-around color is white. If you don't know what color to throw, if you're not confident yet, just get a standard white Fluke. This is what I'm throwing 80% of the time, is that white, and I love it. And this is better on those cloudy days. Like tomorrow, it's going to be cloudy outside, so I'm probably going to be throwing this white most of the day. Now, when you're fishing clearer water, that disco violet color, it's a little bit translucent, and it's got some purple flake in there. So that clear water, it looks a lot more natural. It looks exactly like a herring would, and it looks super wild. Now, if you're fishing dirtier water, these are both for when the sun's out. Or you can fish this in cloud cover too, in like super clean water. But when it's clear, clear water, and it's super sunny out, not a cloud in the sky, or like a little bit dirtier water and the sun's out, I wouldn't fish this with the clouds out. That Carolina Chrome by Strike King. Sunny days, I crush fish on this caffeine shad, on the Carolina Chrome color, because look how flashy that is. It's just loaded with glitter, so it's super flashy in the water. It catches the fish's attention, but it's not as good for pressured fish. So if you're fishing a super pressured lake, like especially later in the summer, like we are, I won't be having this out tomorrow. But like early in the season, May, June, whenever those fish are starting to move offshore into those herring schools, and it's sunny outside, that is a perfect color for your Fluke. We're gonna go ahead and break down all the baits while I'm sitting here before I start rigging up again. Next is also pretty self-explanatory, be fishing this a lot. I don't have to do too much re-rigging. I'm just going to re-rig these couple rods real quick. But it is a topwater, usually a walking bait or a popper. So this is the Bass Mooch Stovetop in the bone color. They don't make like a chrome. A chrome is definitely the best color, like a white. They do make a one with a white bottom and a black back, which is what you want. So when you're using a topwater, something you don't realize is most of the time those fish are only seeing the bottom and maybe sometimes the sides of those baits. They're never really seeing the top. So the thing that matters is the color on the bottom. This is, I think, 5 inches long. It's a bigger walking bait, but it has a great action. Use my link in the description. I'll put it in the description. You can go pick these up using that affiliate link in the description. Helps out the channel when you buy something through Bass Mooch and Level. So if you were going to buy something, please use my link. It would help me out. I really greatly appreciate it. But this and the other topwater I love using is the Bass Mooch Papa Chewy, which is in my rod locker, and it's definitely going to be a player tomorrow, I think, because these herring, there's going to be a lot of schools of smaller herring. So that Papa Chewy is only 3.5 inches, and it's a popper, but it walks super well. So you can walk it and it's spitting like a popper would, but it's walking at the same time, and it's smaller profile, just like those smaller herring. They're making it 4 great colors. I have that really white chromy one on right now that I'll be throwing. That's what I'll be doing tomorrow. I think my main 2 baits are going to be a Fluke, a topwater, and then what I'm about to show you right now, which I do have rigged up. I didn't mention action, so not super different on the action. So on the Fluke rod, I like a 7 to 7.3 medium heavy fast action. Is a great all-around rod. And then the topwaters, I love a 7.3 medium heavy fast, which is I'll be throwing my Fluke on the 7-foot medium heavy, and I'll be throwing the topwater on the 7.3 medium heavy tomorrow. The Level NGX series, definitely the best rod I've ever held in my hands by far. Super sensitive, super durable, and super light. It is definitely the lightest rod. Now the third bait, we're going to move into finesse baits here. It's definitely a drop shot with some sort of worm, a morning dawn worm, stuff like that. So usually for my drop shots, I'm running a longer leader, like a 1.5 to 2 foot leader between my bait and my weight. If you want to go check out the drop shot video that I posted, it's on the channel. I'm going to go watch it, learn a lot more about a drop shot. But this is the Bass Mooch Flow Worm. They're making it a ton of great colors. It's 7 inches, and it's infused with the mooch juice, which makes it better than a robo worm. It's got the same great action as a robo worm. It's a little bit bigger, so you're targeting bigger fish, and it's got the mooch juice in it. Bass Mooch's signature scent. So you're able to go out there and crush them with it. Throwing that on that level, NGX 7.1 medium light fast, fantastic drop shot rod, and a fantastic jig head minnow rod as well. So those are probably my top 3. Honorable mentions, jerk baits. Obviously, a jerk bait is fantastic because you can work it super quickly and you can work it slow as well in the wintertime. Jerk baits I love. Spoons as well. Spoons are great because they're super flashy. Also, whenever you're getting, you know, late fall, early spring, I love a crankbait. Square bill crankbait, ripping it on those riprap banks up shallow, especially for those largemouth. I love that Bass Mooch midge right there, baby. Super great action. Looks more like an old school crankbait, which is what Hank Cherry designed it to be. And it has a super great wobble, dives 4 to 6 foot. It is fantastic. Bounces off a cover super well. Also, the Berkeley Credge, which I have still playing with a little bit. Berkeley Credge is another great one. You can fish it down in the water column. You can also fish it as a topwater as well. But a crankbait in the late fall, early springtime on shallow banks is fantastic. Just cranking that thing pretty quickly. There's a cat. Kitty. Kitty, kitty, kitty. There's a cat. Cranking that thing pretty quickly, especially on riprap and around cover and stuff, is fantastic, especially for largemouth. Rapala DT6 is also not bad. I like it as well. Other baits, you know, jig head minnow hasn't worked as well for me, but if you work it quickly enough, it can definitely work instead of sitting there shaking it. You know, if you're just ripping it through the water like you would a fluke and getting that thing down to those fish, that's probably would be ideal. Also, a shaky head is great. I don't throw shaky heads much. I don't like it. Pretty boring to me. I like a drop shot better. Jigs in the winter time and post spawn and summertime, jigs are also great for the largemouth and spots in the middle of the day when they get down on those brush piles. But the main things to remember: herring are mainly offshore. They don't usually go shallow. They move super quickly, and they don't swim much. They dart around super fast, which makes fish go nuts. So those are the main two things to remember. The ways I like catching these fish, I didn't talk about this earlier. Usually, it's just I'll be roaming around in a certain depth, looking for fish suspended in water on bait, or little wolf packs of fish. You know, there'll be wolf packs of 2, 3, 4, 5 fish sometimes, or there'll be big schools of 20, 30 fish. That's what I'm looking for. A big thing that I also see a lot on Herring Lakes, I saw it a lot at Chatoog, is we would cast at a school of fish, and we would work our bait, but they would chase our bait all the way to the boat, but they wouldn't eat it, and then they'd sit right under the boat, and we'd sit there and mess with them for 15 minutes. Whenever that happens, those fish will not bite for another 30 minutes, so you need to leave and come back, because you're just wasting time at that point. Another thing, don't spend a lot of time in one spot. Move around. If you are on a point and you fish it for 5 minutes, nothing, move on. You're on a point, fishing for 10 minutes, you're seeing fish, yeah, fishing for 10 minutes, nothing, move on. Because those fish, they're very weird. They're wired differently than, you know, your regular TVA bass, Texas bass, whatever. So those are the main things to consider. But I hope this video helps if you're taking a trip over here to Carolinas, or you're already here in the Carolinas and you're struggling on these herring lakes. Biggest tip for you: work a fluke fast. Especially flukes work when they're busting. But whenever they're busting bait, you have to be really on time for it to work out well for you. But I hope this video helps you. If you did enjoy, please leave the like button. Make sure you go check out Bass Mooch and Level in the description. Use that link whenever you buy anything through them. It would help me out a ton, and I'd really appreciate it. But that's all I got for you today, and we will catch you in next week with the Lake Hartwell tournament video. So stay tuned. We'll see you later.